Hey there, ready for another edition of the Sentry Second? Well, I'm Kendall Vallon.
And I'm Haley Sawyer, and we're here to give you all the stories from the news that you'd actually be interested in.
Today we'll be taking a switch to more serious topics, including a weird twist in the Steubenville trial and the conclusion to the Craigslist killer case.
Ooh. And then we'll switch back to stories about Satan being portrayed with an Obama lookalike and Chuck Norris.
Enough said. So let's just jump into the first story. Again, this is going to be more serious. Yesterday, the Australian Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, delivered a historic national apology in Parliament in the regards to the thousands of unwed mothers who were forced by government policy to give up their babies for adoption from the time of World War II until the 1970s. The government's reason behind the policy was said to be in the children's best interest.
Now, this apology seems long overdue, but I'm glad the Prime Minister finally made it a priority. Over 800 people were affected by the policy, and they gave a standing ovation after the speech was given. Gillard also has committed $5 million to support services for affected families and to help biological families reunite.
So at least there was a happy ending with that.
That's sweet. Avril Lavigne has some big news in a small YouTube clip. The punk princess has released a 13-second YouTube clip of her latest song, Here's to Never Growing Up. Additionally, Lavigne is offering fans a chance to be in a lyric video for the song. If anybody out there wants to be in it, hop on the interweb and get on her Facebook page. All you have to do is record yourself singing a provided clip of the song's chorus, as well as submit a photo of yourself never growing up. This song will premiere and be available on iTunes on April 9th.
The Bible has been a popular mini-series for the History Channel, with about 13 million viewers turning in for the first episode. So it's no surprise that a large number of viewers took to the internet after noticing an odd resemblance to the actor cast as the role of Satan. Glenn Beck was actually one of the first people to post on Twitter. Anyone else think the devil in the Bible Sunday on History Channel looks exactly like that guy? And then he posted a link with a headshot of President Obama himself. There are pictures floating around of the actor on the internet, and the resemblance is easy to see. One of the executive producers of the show, Mark Burnett, responded to the claims by stating, "This is utter nonsense. The actor who played Satan, Hadith Osani, is a highly acclaimed Moroccan actor. He has previously played parts in several biblical epics, including satanic characters, long before Barack was ever elected president." So I think he stands by his belief that there is no resemblance to the characters.
On a more serious note, TJ Lane, the guilty shooter in the Chardon, Ohio high school incident, had one word in particular to say in his court hearing on Tuesday. That one word turned out to be killer, and it was scrawled in tall letters across his white prison t-shirt. Lane was wearing an unthreatening light blue button-down shirt to the hearing, but managed to conceal the lettered T underneath. After the incident, 18-year-old Lane launched a verbal assault of unspeakable words at the families of the victims, as well as giving them the middle finger. The families called him an animal and a monster, and to this, the murderer simply smiled and laughed. All inmates are supplied with 3 plain white t-shirts, underwear, and socks, as well as pens for writing letters and filling out forms. Lieutenant John Hiscox, Jr. of the Geauga County Sheriff's Office believes that in the middle of the night, Lane had taken a pen and wrote "killer" across one of the shirts before slipping it on under his prison uniform. By the end of the court case, Lane was given 3 life sentences.
It was on Wednesday that a jury in Ohio recommended the death penalty for the man that is now known as a Craigslist killer. 53-year-old Beasley was convicted of teaming up with a teenager back in 2011 to lure 4 men in with job offers in southeast Ohio in order to rob them, and then 3 out of the 4 were killed, while the 4th stood wounded to testify at Beasley's trial. Prosecutor Jonathan Bamule stated, "The law in Ohio for the death penalty, it's reserved for the worst of the worst, and it's the state's position that Richard Beasley is the worst of the worst." But what about Beasley's teenaged accomplice? Being 16 at the time of the crimes, he was too young to face a death penalty. Instead, Rafferty was sentenced to life in prison without the chance of parole.
Now, we don't have too much information on this next story, but it's really not surprising considering who the story is about. Photos have been released of Chuck Norris without a beard. The legendary man looks a lot older without his trademark scruff. It must have took him a while to shave it all off, considering that the only thing that can cut diamonds is other diamonds and Chuck Norris's beard. However, MSN does have an explanation. Chuck Norris did not shave the beard shaved him.
Well, by now you have heard a lot about the Steubenville rape trial, but there's been a recent update on the case that has erupted into major controversy. The trial was supposed to end earlier this week, but now it looks like the defendants are going to, wait for it, appeal. But now wait for the reasoning behind this one. The defense attorney first had the tactic to help the young clients by stating that the victim was not too drunk to say no. And now, since that's obviously failed, he's going all out by saying, quote, "The boys' brains are not fully developed and should not be kept on the sex offenders list for life." Yep, Walter Madison is the man behind this nonsense. He continues to state that the boys are teenagers and still growing. They are not capable of thinking that having sex with a girl that is plastered and passed out is a bad idea. I mean, come on, man. I can understand that the boys don't want to be judged for the rest of their life by something that they did at 16, but rape is a league all on its own when comparing it to other stupid teenager actions like drugs or shoplifting.
31-year-old Aaron Jackson has taken activism to a whole new level. One day, Jackson was simply doing some research on the National Church of I Hate Gays, or as some people like to call it, the Westboro Baptist Church. He was curious as to what the Topeka, Kansas church looked like, so like any other internet-savvy American, he went straight to Google Maps. To his surprise, he discovered that the house across the street was for sale. And he didn't buy the house, but he managed to get the house next to it somehow.
And then after acquiring the home, he hired a Navy veteran to paint the entire house, of course, a rainbow color, and then the recognized symbol of gay rights and equality. The house has been dubbed the Equality House, and its goal is to really tick off the WBC, the Navy vet, Mike McKesser, excuse me, thank you, and no problem helping out Jackson. "I'm a veteran too," says McKesser, "and those guys mess with veterans, not just the gay people, they mess with everybody."
True that, and members of the community are quite pleased with this daring and creative act of free speech. Jackson has been living in the house for about 3 months now and has no plans to change its color. Sorry about that. And what does the Westboro Baptist Church think? The Sodomite Rainbow House is another instance where someone has declared their Sodom, and it shines a huge spotlight on our message. You can paint rainbows on every house in America, and homosexuality will still be an abominable sin in the in the eyes of God. Misquoted them.
I feel like they'll say anything to prove a point.
Yeah, I don't see where they're going with that one.
And I guess this has been another edition of Sentry Second.
Check back every Friday, not just next Friday, on SentryMedia.com to see our lovely faces.
That's right. And thumbs up our Facebook page at RMU Sentry. Yeah.